Captain Lisa Martinez floated in the zero-gravity section of her ship, watching the stars through the main window. The exploration vessel Harmony's Edge had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now. Her crew was getting restless. They had found nothing but cold rocks and dead planets. "Captain," called Jake Collins from the communication station. "I'm picking up something strange." Lisa pushed herself toward the bridge, using the handholds built into the walls. Her boots clicked against the metal floor as the artificial gravity kicked in. "What kind of strange, Jake?" Jake frowned at his screens. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "It's a transmission, but it's not like anything we've seen before. The signal is coming from deep space, way beyond our territory." Dr. Alex Rodriguez looked up from his science station. His dark eyes showed curiosity. "How far beyond our territory?" "About 200 light years," Jake said. "That puts it right in the middle of Zephyrian space." Lisa felt her stomach tighten. The Zephyrians were bad news. Every human colony near their territory had stories about the alien empire. They were warriors who conquered everything in their path. Their ships were fast, and their weapons were deadly. No one had ever tried to talk to them because they never answered. "Are you sure it's from Zephyrian space?" Lisa asked. Jake nodded. "The coordinates are definitely in their territory." "But Captain, this transmission is weird. It's not military communications or battle plans. Then what is it?" Jake's fingers stopped moving. He stared at his screen like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "It's music, Captain. Human music." The bridge went quiet. Lisa could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines and the gentle whoosh of air recycling. "Did you say human music?" "Yes, ma'am. And it's a specific piece. Let me play it for you." Play. Speakers crackled to life. Then the most beautiful sound Lisa had ever heard filled the bridge. It was a violin, playing a melody that made her think of adventure and freedom. The music was fast and exciting, like a storm at sea or a race through the stars. But it was also precise and perfect, every note exactly where it should be. "This is impossible," Dr. Rodriguez whispered. How could the Zephyrians have human music? Lisa listened to the performance. There were 2 musicians. One played violin with incredible skill. The other played along, making the melody even more beautiful. The music told a story without words. It spoke of brave pirates sailing dangerous seas, of friendship and courage, of dreams that could take you anywhere. "Jake, where did this music come from originally?" Lisa asked. Jake worked at his controls. "I'm running it through our database now. Give me a second." His screen lit up with information. Found it. This is a street performance from Earth, recorded about 40 years ago. 2 young musicians named Karolina Protsenko and Chen. They performed Pirates of the Caribbean music on a street corner, and the video became famous all over Earth. A street performance? Lisa couldn't hide her surprise. The Zephyrians are broadcasting a street performance? That's not the strangest part, Jake continued. I'm detecting multiple transmissions. This same performance is being broadcast from at least 12 different locations in Zephyrian space. It's like they're playing it over and over again. Dr. Rodriguez moved to his own station. His instruments began scanning the alien transmissions. Captain, I'm detecting something else. These aren't just random broadcasts. The Zephyrians are using their military communication networks to send this music. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Their military networks? Yes, ma'am. This music is being transmitted on the same frequencies they use for battle communications and fleet coordination. The violin music continued to play. Lisa found herself getting lost in the melody. It made her feel brave and hopeful at the same time. She could almost see the young musicians playing on Earth, sharing their gift with anyone who would listen. There's more, Jake said. I'm picking up response transmissions from Zephyrian ships. They're sending messages back and forth about this music. Can you decode their language? Some of it. Our computers have been working on Zephyrian language patterns for years. It's not perfect, but I can get the basic meaning. Jake's screen, filled with alien text. Slowly, human words appeared next to the strange symbols. They're asking questions about the music. Things like, what is the purpose of this sound pattern? And why does it create unusual neural responses? Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his instruments. Neural responses? It gets better, Jake said. Some of the messages talk about Zephyrian soldiers acting strangely after hearing the music. Commanders are reporting that their troops are less aggressive and more curious about human culture. Lisa stared at the communications officer. Music is making Zephyrian warriors less aggressive? That's what their messages suggest. There are reports of soldiers refusing direct orders, asking questions about Earth, and even trying to create their own versions of the sounds they heard. The music ended, but Lisa could still hear the melody in her head. She thought about the two young musicians who had created this performance. They had probably never imagined that their street corner concert would travel across the galaxy and affect an alien empire. Dr. Rodriguez, what do you make of this? Lisa asked. The science officer adjusted his glasses. It's fascinating from a biological standpoint. Different species process sound and rhythm in different ways. But music seems to have universal elements. That can cross species barriers. Mathematical patterns, emotional resonance, harmonic structures that appeal to many forms of intelligent life. But why this particular piece? Think about what the music represents, Dr. Rodriguez said. Adventure, freedom, individual skill combined with cooperation. These might be concepts that the Zephyrian culture has suppressed. When they hear music, that celebrates these ideas. It could trigger responses they've never experienced before. Jake looked up from his station. Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting a Zephyrian ship approaching our position. It's still far away, but it's definitely headed toward us. Lisa felt her heart rate increase. Battle stations? I don't think so, Jake said. The ship is transmitting the music. The same Pirates of the Caribbean performance. It's like they're announcing themselves with human music instead of weapons. Lisa looked around the bridge at her crew. They were deep in space, further from Earth than any human had ever traveled. They had discovered something that could change everything they knew about the galaxy. An alien empire that had never shown interest in peace was apparently fascinated by human music. Set course to intercept, Lisa ordered. But keep our weapons ready and our shields up. We're about to make first contact with a species that's been playing our music. I want to know why. The Zephyrian ship grew larger on the main screen. Lisa watched as the alien vessel approached slowly, still broadcasting the violin music. The ship looked nothing like human designs. It was long and curved, with sharp edges that looked like weapons. Dark metal covered its surface, and strange lights pulsed along its sides. Distance? Lisa asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, Jake reported. They're still playing the music, but they've added something new. What kind of new? Jake's fingers moved over his controls. They're sending a message along with the music. It's in their language, but our computers are working on it. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his science station. His face was pale with excitement. Captain, I've been analyzing the data we collected from their transmissions. What I found is incredible. Tell me, the Zephyrian brain structure is completely different from ours. They process information in ways we never imagined. But music affects them more strongly than it affects humans. Much more strongly, Lisa frowned. What do you mean? When we listen to music, it activates certain parts of our brain. We feel emotions. We remember things. We might tap our feet or sing along. For Zephyrians, Music seems to activate their entire nervous system. It's like their brains are built to respond to sound patterns. Jake looked up from his station. I've got a partial translation of their message. They're asking for permission to approach. They want to talk. They want to talk? Lisa couldn't hide her surprise. Zephyrians never talk to anyone. According to our records, no, Jake said. But these ones are different. The message says they have questions about human sound patterns and cultural expressions. Dr. Rodriguez continued his analysis. Captain, I think I understand what's happening. The Zephyrian Empire is built on strict order and military discipline. Every aspect of their society is controlled. But music represents something they've never experienced before, which is individual expression, creative freedom, the ability to make something beautiful just because you want to. When they hear human music, especially something as free and joyful as that street performance, it triggers parts of their minds that have been sleeping for centuries. The alien ship stopped about 10,000 kilometers away. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Harmony's Edge, but it made no threatening moves. Instead, it continued playing the violin music. Jake, can you establish communication? With them? Working on it, Captain. I'm using standard first contact protocols, but I'm also including musical elements. Maybe that will help. Lisa paced the bridge. Everything she had learned about Zephyrians said they were dangerous. They conquered planets and enslaved populations. They never negotiated or showed mercy. But this ship was playing human music and asking for permission to talk. Got it, Jake announced. I have a communication link. They're responding to our signals. Put them on screen. The main display flickered. Then Lisa saw her first living Zephyrian. The alien was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large dark eyes. Its head was slightly larger than a human head, and it had no visible nose, just small openings where a nose should be. When it spoke, its voice was musical, like it was singing instead of talking. Human vessel, the Zephyrian said, and surprisingly clear English. I am Sub-Commander Zeka of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. We request permission to discuss the sound patterns you call music. Lisa stepped forward. I am Captain Lisa Martinez of the human exploration ship Harmony's Edge. Permission. Granted, Sub-Commander. We're also interested in discussing music with you. Zeka's large eyes seemed to brighten. You are the creators of the sound patterns that have affected our people? We are human, yes. But the music you've been playing was created by 2 specific humans named Karolina Protsenko and Chen. How did you obtain their performance? We have been monitoring your transmissions for many cycles, Zeka explained. Most human communications are military or commercial in nature, but occasionally we detect cultural transmissions, music, visual art, stories. We began studying these to understand human psychology. Dr. Rodriguez moved closer to the screen. What happened when you started studying our music? Zeka paused. When it spoke again, its voice carried something Lisa had never expected to hear. From a Zephyrian emotion, the effects were unexpected. Our researchers who listened to human music began to change. They asked questions that had never been asked before. They expressed dissatisfaction with their assigned roles. Some even attempted to create their own sound patterns. They started making their own music? Lisa asked. Yes, this behavior is forbidden in our society. Individual expression is considered dangerous to social order. But the humans you call Karolina Protsenko and Chen created something that makes our people want to express themselves. Jake leaned forward. How many of your people have been affected? The influence spreads rapidly. We estimate that over 3 million Zephyrians across our empire have now been exposed to human music. The effects are becoming difficult to control. Dr. Rodriguez was typing rapidly at his station. Captain, this is extraordinary. We're looking at a species whose entire culture is based on suppression of individual creativity. But human music is awakening that creativity anyway. Zaika continued. Our military leaders are concerned. Soldiers who have heard your music show decreased aggression and increased curiosity about other cultures. Some refuse orders that involve harming non-Zephyrian beings. This is unprecedented in our history. Lisa felt a strange mixture of hope and fear. If human music could change Zephyrian behavior, it could prevent wars and save lives. But it could also be seen as a weapon by those who didn't want change. Sub-Commander, are you here on official orders from your empire? Zaika's expression changed. No, Captain Martinez. I am here against direct orders. My superiors have declared human cultural transmissions to be a form of psychological warfare. They believe you are deliberately trying to weaken our society. Are we? Jake asked quietly. The transmissions from your space show no signs of deliberate targeting, Aika said. You broadcast your culture openly, without concern for who might receive it. This suggests the effects on our people are accidental. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his readings. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. Sub-Commander Zaika's neural patterns are different from what our databases show for typical Zephyrians. The music has changed its brain structure. Changed. How? New neural pathways have formed. Connections that allow for creative thinking and emotional expression. If I'm reading this correctly, Zaika is no longer the same type of being it was before exposure to human music. Zaika nodded slowly. Dr. Rodriguez is correct. I have become something my people have no name for. I think thoughts that were impossible. Before, I feel sensations that our language cannot describe. And I have questions about why we live as we do. Lisa realized they were witnessing something incredible. Human music wasn't just entertaining these aliens. It was literally changing their biology and psychology. She thought about the two young musicians who had performed on a street corner decades ago. They had no idea their performance would travel across the galaxy and transform an entire species. Sub-Commander, what do you want from us? I want to understand, Zaika said. I want to know how humans create such powerful expressions of individual freedom. And I want to warn you that my empire will not tolerate this influence much longer. They are preparing to stop human cultural transmissions permanently. Lisa felt her heart sink. You mean they're preparing for war? Yes, Captain Martinez. Unless we can find another solution, the Zephyrian Empire will attack human space to prevent further cultural contamination. They fear that continued exposure to your music will destroy our civilization. Lisa looked around the bridge at her crew. They had discovered something that could change the galaxy forever. But they had also discovered that change could lead to war. The beautiful violin music that still played softly in the background might be the key to peace between species, or the reason for their destruction. Admiral Patricia Stone sat in her office on Earth, staring at the report from Captain Martinez. She had read it 3 times, but it still seemed impossible. Music as a weapon? Aliens changing because of violin performances? It sounded like science fiction, not military intelligence. Are you certain about this data? She asked Dr. Kevin Barnes, her chief science advisor. The elderly scientist had spent his entire career studying alien psychology and culture. The evidence is solid, Admiral, Dr. Barnes replied. Captain Martinez's crew documented everything. Brain scans, communication intercepts, behavioral analysis. The Zephyrians are literally being transformed by human music. Admiral Stone looked out her window at the busy spaceport below. Ships were coming and going, carrying supplies to human colonies across the galaxy. Many of those colonies were near Zephyrian space. If war came, millions of people would be in danger. Dr. Barnes, explained to me how music can change an alien's brain structure. The scientist adjusted his glasses. Think of it like learning a new language, Admiral. When humans learn to speak different languages, our brains form new connections. The Zephyrian brain is much more flexible than ours. When they hear music, especially music that expresses individual freedom and creativity, their brains don't just form new connections, they restructure completely. And this makes them less aggressive? More than that, it makes them question their entire society. The Zephyrian Empire is built on absolute obedience and suppression of individual thought. But music awakens parts of their minds that were designed for creativity and personal expression. Once those parts activate, they can't go back to their old way of thinking. Admiral Stone's communication device buzzed. Her aide announced that the president was calling for an emergency meeting. Within minutes, Stone found herself in a secure video conference with Earth's most important leaders. Admiral Stone, President Johnson began, we've received intelligence that the Zephyrian Empire is mobilizing their fleet. Our estimates suggest they'll be ready to attack human colonies within 6 months. What are your recommendations? Stone looked at the faces on her screen. These people expected military solutions, more ships, better weapons, stronger defenses. But Captain Martinez had discovered something completely different. Mr. President, I believe we have an opportunity that has never existed before in galactic history. Instead of preparing for war, I recommend we prepare for the largest cultural exchange ever attempted. The room went quiet. General Roberts, head of the Space Marines, spoke first. Cultural exchange? Admiral, they're preparing to invade us. Because they're afraid of our culture, not our weapons, Stone replied. Our music is already changing their society from within. Instead of fighting this change, we should encourage it. Dr. Barnes stepped forward. Mr. President, we're proposing Operation Harmony Protocol. We would broadcast human music throughout Zephyrian space, but not as an attack. As an invitation to communication. President Johnson frowned. You want to use music as diplomacy? More than diplomacy, Stone said. We want to create new compositions specifically designed to reach across species barriers. We need Earth's greatest musicians to help us. Meanwhile, in deep space, Captain Martinez continued her conversations with Sub-Commander Zika. The Zephyrian had remained near the Harmony's edge for 3 days, sharing information about the changes happening throughout the Empire. Captain, Zika explained, the young ones are most affected by your music. Zephyrians who have lived fewer than 50. Cycles show the strongest responses. They listen to your cultural transmissions and begin creating their own expressions. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his instruments. What kind of expressions? They combine sounds in ways that have never been attempted. They use mathematical patterns, similar to your music, but include elements unique to Zephyrian perception. The results are beautiful. Jake had been monitoring Zephyrian communications throughout their conversation. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from multiple Zephyrian worlds. It sounds like there's some kind of uprising happening. Uprising? Lisa moved to the communication station. Not violent, Jake clarified, but Zephyrians across the Empire are refusing to follow standard protocols. They're asking questions about individual rights and creative freedom. Some are even demanding to hear more human music. Zika's expression became sad. This is why my leaders fear your culture, Captain. Martinez. In just a few months, human music has accomplished what centuries of military conquest could not. It has united Zephyrians across our empire in a common desire for change. Dr. Rodriguez was analyzing the data Jake had collected. Captain, I'm seeing something remarkable. The Zephyrians who have been most affected by our music are beginning to communicate with each other in new ways. They're sharing their own creative expressions and building on each other's ideas. They're collaborating, Lisa realized, something their culture never allowed before. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Supreme Leader Caxthul faced the greatest crisis in his empire's history. His military advisors surrounded the war table, showing him reports from across Zephyrian space. "The contamination is spreading faster than we predicted," General Mordai reported. 17 worlds now show significant behavioral changes among the population. Military effectiveness has decreased by 30%. Caxthul's 4 arms gestured angrily. "How can sound patterns cause such disruption? We are the most disciplined species in the galaxy. The humans have weaponized creativity itself," another advisor explained. "Their music doesn't attack our bodies or our technology. It attacks the foundation of our social order. Then we must eliminate the source," Caxthul declared. "Prepare the fleet for immediate invasion of human space. We will destroy their ability to create these sound patterns." But General Mordai hesitated. "Supreme Leader, there is a complication. Many of our ship commanders have also been exposed to human music. Their loyalty to the invasion plan is questionable." Caxthul realized the true scope of the problem. The enemy wasn't outside his empire. It was inside the minds of his own people. Back on Earth, Admiral Stone received approval for Operation Harmony Protocol. Within hours, she was in contact with musicians around the world. The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Artists who had never worked together began collaborating on compositions that could bridge species barriers. The most important call went to Karolina Protsenko and Chen, the musicians whose street performance had started everything. Both were now successful artists with international careers. When they learned that their music had affected an alien empire, they immediately agreed to help. "Admiral Stone," Karolina said during their video call, "Ray and I have been talking about this since we heard the news. We want to create something new, something that builds on what we did before, but reaches even further." Ray nodded. "We've been working with composers and scientists to understand how music affects different types of minds. We think we can create pieces that speak to universal experiences: joy, wonder, the desire for freedom." Dr. Barnes joined the conversation. "What we need is music that demonstrates the best of human creativity, while inviting other species to add their own contributions. Not human music that replaces alien culture, but music that celebrates the possibility of creating something together." As Earth's musicians began their work, Captain Martinez received new orders. The Harmony's Edge was to serve as humanity's first cultural embassy. Her mission was to work with friendly Zephyrians, like Zeka, to test the new musical compositions and establish communication protocols. "Captain," Zeka said as they discussed the plan, "you must understand the risk you are taking. If this fails, if the new music cannot reach my people, the Empire will see it as proof that humans are trying to destroy us. The war will be inevitable." Lisa looked at her crew. They were volunteers on an exploration ship, not diplomats or warriors. But they had become humanity's best hope for peace. "Sub-Commander, what happens if we succeed?" Zyka's large eyes seemed to glow with hope. "If we succeed, Captain Martinez, we will prove that different species can create something beautiful together. We will show that cooperation is stronger than conquest, and that the universe is big enough for all forms of life to flourish." The stakes had never been higher. Music had started a revolution across the Zephyrian Empire. Now it would either prevent a galactic war or cause one. 3 weeks after Operation Harmony Protocol began, Karolina Protsenko and Chen stood in the most advanced recording studio on Earth. Around them, scientists and musicians worked together to create something that had never existed before: music designed to speak to alien minds. "The mathematical patterns need to be precise," Dr. Barnes explained to the 2 musicians. "Zephyrian brains process rhythm and harmony differently than humans. but they respond strongly to emotional resonance. Karolina held her violin, the same instrument she had played on street corners years ago. Now that simple violin might help prevent a galactic war. So we need to combine mathematical precision with deep emotion? Exactly, Ray said, adjusting his own violin. Like our original Pirates of the Caribbean performance, but designed for two species instead of one. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a xenolinguist who had been studying Zephyrian communication patterns, joined the conversation. We've learned that Zephyrians understand concepts through harmonic relationships. When they hear certain combinations of notes, it triggers understanding of abstract ideas like cooperation, trust, and shared purpose. The musicians spent days working on the composition. They called it Symphony for Two Worlds. The piece began with the familiar melody from their street performance, but then evolved into something completely new. Human musical elements blended with mathematical patterns that would appeal to Zephyrian logic not far from Earth. Captain Martinez prepared for the most important performance in human history. The Harmony's Edge had been modified with the most advanced sound equipment available. The ship itself would become a concert hall broadcasting across space. Sub-Commander Zyka had arranged for the meeting to take place in neutral space, far from both human and Zephyrian territories. But the location wouldn't remain neutral for long. Zyka had revealed that several Zephyrian commanders were willing to listen to the new human composition. If it worked, they might join the growing movement for change within the Empire. Captain, Dr. Rodriguez announced, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching. 3 Zephyrian vessels, just like Zeka promised. Lisa felt her heart racing. Everything depended on the next few hours. Jake, are you ready to broadcast the symphony? All systems ready, Captain. The composition is loaded and the transmission. Array is at full power. The Zephyrian ships appeared on the main screen. They were larger than Zyka's vessel, clearly military ships designed for war. But like Zyka's ship, they were broadcasting human music, different pieces now, but all expressing themes of freedom and individual creativity. Incoming transmission, Jake announced. The screen filled with the image of a Zephyrian Lisa head. Never seen before. This one was older than Zyka, with darker skin and scars that suggested a military career. When it spoke, its voice carried the authority of command. Human vessel, I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Sub-Commander, Zyka has told us about your cultural exchange proposal. We have come to witness your new composition. Lisa stepped forward. Commander Veltar, I am Captain Lisa Martinez. We are honored by your presence. The musicians of Earth have created something special for this occasion. A piece that celebrates both human and Zephyrian potential. We will listen, Veltar said simply, but understand that if this is an attempt to weaken our resolve, we will respond accordingly. Dr. Rodriguez moved to his instruments. Captain, I'm reading elevated stress. Patterns from all the Zephyrian ships. They're nervous about this meeting. So are we, Lisa replied quietly. She turned to Jake. Begin the transmission. The Symphony for Two Worlds began to play. The familiar violin melody filled the bridge of the Harmony's Edge, but now it was accompanied by subtle electronic tones designed to resonate with Zephyrian neural patterns. The music told a story of two different worlds, discovering they could create something beautiful together. As the symphony played, Dr. Rodriguez watched his instruments carefully. Captain, I'm detecting immediate neural responses from the Zephyrian crews. Their brain patterns are changing rapidly. On the main screen, Commander Veltar's expression shifted. The stern military bearing softened, replaced by something Lisa had never seen in a Zephyrian before. Wonder. The alien commander's large eyes seemed to glow as the music continued. The symphony reached its middle section, where human and theoretical Zephyrian musical elements began to merge. The composition suggested What might happen if both species worked together, creating harmonies that neither could achieve alone? Incredible, Veltar whispered. The sound patterns create mental images of cooperation and shared achievement. How is this possible? Music is a universal language, Lisa replied. It speaks to parts of the mind that exist in all intelligent beings, the parts that dream of something better than what exists now. The symphony continued, building toward its climax. The music suggested that diversity made both species stronger, that different perspectives could solve problems neither could handle alone. It spoke of exploration and discovery, of the joy of learning something new. Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring communication channels between the Zephyrian ships. Captain, they're talking to each other in ways I've never seen before. They're sharing emotional responses to the music and building on each other's reactions. They're collaborating, Lisa realized. The music is teaching them to work together. As the symphony reached its final movement, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrian ships began transmitting their own sounds, not music exactly, but harmonic patterns that complemented the human composition. They were adding their own contribution to the performance. They're improvising, Jake said in amazement. They're making it up as they go along. The combined human Zephyrian performance created something neither species could have imagined alone. The mathematical precision of Zephyrian harmonics merged with human emotional expression to create patterns of incredible beauty and complexity. When the music ended, the silence felt profound. Both human and Zephyrian crews seemed stunned by what they had experienced together. Commander Veltar was the first to speak. Captain Martinez, what we have just experienced changes everything. For the first time in my life, I understand what it means to create something with beings who think differently than I do. How do you feel about it? Lisa asked. I feel alive, Veltar said. My people have spent centuries conquering other species, believing that our way of thinking was superior. But your music shows us that difference can be strength, not weakness. Zika's ship joined the conversation. Commander Veltar, do you now understand why so many of our people have been changed by human culture? I do, Veltar replied. But I also understand why our leaders fear this change. If our entire empire experiences what we just experienced, our civilization will never be the same. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his instruments. Captain, I'm detecting something unusual. The neural changes in the Zephyrian crews aren't temporary. The music has created permanent new pathways in their brains. Lisa felt a mixture of hope and concern. What does that mean? It means they can never go back to their old way of thinking. They've been fundamentally changed by this experience. Commander Veltar seemed to understand the implications. Captain Martinez, I must tell you something important. Supreme Leader Caxthul has ordered the invasion of human space to begin in 2 months. Our entire fleet is being mobilized. Will you be part of that invasion? Lisa asked. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a determination Lisa had never heard from a Zephyrian before. No, after what we have experienced today, I cannot be part of destroying the species that gave us this gift. I will convince as many commanders as possible to join me in refusing the invasion orders. That sounds like rebellion, Zika observed. It is rebellion, Veltar agreed. But for the first time in my life, I understand what is worth rebelling for. The right to create, to express individual thoughts, to work with others who are different from yourself. These are not weaknesses to be eliminated. They are the most precious gifts in the universe. Jake had been monitoring communications throughout the meeting. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from deeper in Zephyrian space. Word of this meeting is spreading. There are reports of military units refusing orders and demanding to hear the new human composition. Lisa realized they had accomplished something incredible. The Symphony for Two Worlds had done more than entertain the Zephyrian commanders. It had converted them to the cause of cooperation and individual freedom. But she also knew this was just the beginning. Supreme Leader Caxthul would not give up his empire without a fight. The real test was still to come. The revolution spread faster than anyone had expected. Within 2 weeks of the Symphony for Two Worlds performance, over 50 Zephyrian worlds reported massive changes in their populations. Young Zephyrians were abandoning their assigned roles to create music, art, and poetry. Military units were refusing orders. Some planets had declared independence from the Empire. Supreme Leader Caxthul stood in his command center, watching reports pour in from across his territory. His 4 arms moved frantically as he tried to process the scale of the disaster. His empire, built over 1,000 years of conquest and control, was falling apart because of human music. General Nordai, Caxthul's voice carried barely controlled. Rage. How many ships remain loyal to the Empire? The general consulted his data screens. Approximately 60%, Supreme Leader, but that number decreases daily. Commander Veltar has convinced 8 battle groups to join his rebellion. They call themselves the Free Harmony Fleet. Free Harmony Fleet? Caxthul's voice rose to a shriek. They name themselves after human concepts? Yes, Supreme Leader. They broadcast human music constantly and invite other ships to join them. Their influence spreads with every transmission. On the distant world of Zephyr Prime, young Zephyrian artists gathered in secret to share their creations. Kilara, barely 20 cycles old, had never imagined life beyond her assigned role in mineral processing. But after hearing the symphony, for 2 worlds, she had started combining sounds and patterns that expressed her inner thoughts. Listen to this, she told her friends, playing a melody she had created using abandoned mining equipment. The sounds were haunting and beautiful. Nothing like traditional Zephyrian communication patterns. Her friend Taloran added his own sounds, creating a harmony that made the group feel connected in ways their society had never allowed. We should broadcast this to other worlds, he suggested. Let them hear what we can create when we work together. Word of their music reached Commander Veltar's fleet. The rebel commander had established a base in neutral space, where Zephyrians from across the Empire came to experience freedom for the first time. When Veltar heard the young artist's composition, he knew the revolution had become unstoppable. Captain Martinez, Veltar transmitted to the Harmony's Edge, you must hear what our young people are creating. They have taken your gift of music and made it truly our own. Lisa listened to the alien compositions with wonder. The music was unlike anything humans had ever created, but it carried the same spirit of freedom and creativity that had started the revolution. It's beautiful. Commander, your people are natural artists. We never knew, Veltar replied. For 1,000 years, we believed that individual expression was dangerous. We suppressed the very parts of ourselves that make life worth living. Dr. Rodriguez had been studying the new Zephyrian music. Captain, I'm detecting something remarkable. The compositions created by different Zephyrian groups are starting to influence each other. They're creating a shared musical language that spans their entire empire. A language based on freedom and cooperation instead of obedience and conquest, Lisa realized. Meanwhile, Captain Martinez received urgent orders from Earth. Admiral Stone wanted the Harmonies Edge to attempt something that had never been tried before, a direct diplomatic mission to the Zephyrian homeworld. Captain, Admiral Stone explained during their secure communication, we've been monitoring the situation in Zephyrian space. The Empire is splitting apart, but Caxthul still controls enough ships to threaten human colonies. We need someone to negotiate directly with him. Admiral, Caxthul has declared human culture to be an act of war. I doubt he'll want to negotiate. That's exactly why we need to try. You've proven that music can change minds. Maybe it can change his. Lisa felt the weight of responsibility. Millions of lives depended on preventing the war that Caxthul still planned to launch. What are my orders? Travel to the Zephyrian homeworld. Offer Caxthul a choice: peaceful coexistence or continued conflict. But make sure he understands that the revolution in his empire won't stop. His people have tasted freedom, and they won't give it up. The journey to the Zephyrian homeworld took 2 weeks. As the Harmony's Edge traveled deeper into former Imperial space, they encountered more and more rebel Zephyrian ships. Each vessel played different musical compositions, creating a symphony of freedom that echoed across the void. "Captain," Jake reported, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. It's from Caxthul himself." The main screen filled with the image of the Supreme Leader. Unlike other Zephyrians Lisa had met, Caxthul showed no curiosity or wonder. His eyes burned with hatred and fear. "Human vessel," Caxthul's voice was cold and threatening. "You will cease your approach immediately. Any attempt to contaminate our homeworld with your cultural poison will be met with destruction." Lisa stepped forward. "Supreme Leader Caxthul, I am Captain Lisa Martinez. I come seeking peaceful resolution to the conflict between our peoples." "There can be no peace," Caxthul replied. "Your species has weaponized creativity itself. You have turned my own people against me with your sound patterns. This is the most insidious form of warfare ever devised." "We never intended to change your people," Lisa said honestly. "We simply shared our culture, as we do with all species. The changes in your empire happened because your people chose freedom over oppression." Caxthul's 4 arms gestured violently. "Choice is chaos. Order requires obedience. You have given my people dangerous ideas about individual worth and creative expression. Now they believe they have the right to think for themselves." Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring Caxthul's neural patterns. "Captain, his brain structure is completely different from the other Zephyrians we've met. The parts that respond to music have been surgically altered." Lisa felt a chill of understanding. "You've been modified to resist our influence." "Yes," Caxthul admitted. "I removed the parts of my mind that could be corrupted by your cultural weapons. I am immune to your music and the weakness it brings." "Or maybe you've removed the parts that make you truly alive," Lisa replied. Caxthul's expression grew even colder. "I will prove that order is stronger than chaos, that discipline is superior to creativity. I challenge you to demonstrate your cultural superiority. Human, play your most powerful music. Show me something that can move even a mind protected against your influence." Lisa realized this was the moment everything had been building toward. If she could reach Caxthul, the war could be prevented. If she failed, millions would die. "I accept your challenge," Lisa said, "but I won't play alone." "What do you mean?" Lisa smiled. "I mean that true music isn't about one voice overpowering another. It's about different voices working together to create something beautiful. I challenge you to hear not just human music, but the songs your own people are creating." "My people create nothing but noise and disorder." "Then let's find out," Lisa said. She turned to Jake. "Open a channel to all Zephyrian ships in this system. Broadcast on all frequencies." Jake's fingers flew over his controls. "Channel open." "Captain," Lisa spoke to the galaxy. "This is Captain Martinez to all ships, human and Zephyrian. I'm asking for something that has never been attempted before. I want every ship in this system to contribute to a single musical performance. Humans, play your instruments. Zephyrians, add your voices and sounds. Let's create something together that shows what cooperation can accomplish." The response was immediate. From across the system, music began to flow. Human instruments blended with Zephyrian harmonics. Rebel ships added their own compositions. Even some of Caxthul's loyal forces, despite their orders, couldn't resist contributing their own sounds. The result was unlike anything that had ever existed. Thousands of voices and instruments, representing different worlds and ways of thinking, created a symphony of incredible complexity and beauty. It was chaotic and ordered at the same time, structured yet free, showing that diversity could create harmony instead of conflict. Caxtool listened to the galactic symphony with growing amazement. Even his modified brain could sense the power of what was being created. For the first time in his life, he began to understand what his people had discovered, that working together created possibilities that no single mind could imagine. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Such coordination without central command should create only chaos." "But it doesn't," Lisa said gently. "It creates something beautiful. Your people aren't rebelling against order, Supreme Leader. They're discovering a better kind of order, one based on choice and cooperation instead of fear and control." The galaxy-wide symphony continued, growing more complex and beautiful with each passing moment. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Supreme Leader of the Zephyrian Empire began to wonder if he had been wrong about everything. The galaxy-wide symphony continued for hours. Ships from across the Zephyrian Empire added their voices to the performance, creating layer upon layer of harmony. Supreme Leader Caxtool stood in his command center, watching his empire transform. Before his eyes, "Supreme Leader," General Mordai said quietly, "our loyal ships are requesting permission to join the performance. The crews say the music is too beautiful to resist." Caxtool stared at the screens, showing thousands of ships contributing to the symphony. Even his most disciplined commanders were adding their voices to the human creation. The empire he had spent his life building was dissolving into something he didn't understand. "How many ships remain under our direct control?" he asked. "Fewer than 100, Supreme Leader. And that number decreases every moment the music continues." Captain Martinez watched her instruments as the symphony grew. "Dr. Rodriguez, what? Are you reading from Caxtool's ship?" "His neural patterns are changing, Captain. Even with the surgical modifications, the combined power of this performance is affecting him. The music is reaching parts of his mind that he thought he had removed." On Earth, Karolina Protsenko and Chen listened to the galactic symphony with tears in their eyes. Their simple street performance had grown into something that spanned star systems and brought different species together in harmony. "Ray," Karolina whispered, "do you think we could have imagined this when we were playing on that street corner?" "Never," Ray replied. "But maybe that's the point. Music grows beyond what any single person can imagine. It becomes something shared by everyone who hears it." Admiral Stone coordinated the Earth portion of the performance from her headquarters. Musicians around the world had joined the symphony, adding instruments and voices to the cosmic composition. The music was being broadcast to every human colony, creating unity across space. In the Zephyrian system, young artist Kilara had convinced her entire mining colony to participate. Thousands of Zephians who had never made music before were adding their voices to the symphony. The result was raw and emotional, expressing centuries of suppressed creativity. "This is what we were meant to be," Taloran said as he listened, to their combined voices rising to join the galactic performance. Not processors of minerals or followers of orders, but creators of beauty. Commander Veltar's Free Harmony fleet had become the center of the rebel performance. Ships from across the Empire came to his position, adding their music to his growing symphony of freedom. His own vessel had been transformed into a broadcasting station, coordinating the contributions of thousands of ships. "Captain Martinez," Veltar transmitted, "our people are creating something unprecedented. This music expresses ideas that our language has no words for: cooperation without domination, unity without uniformity, order without oppression." The symphony reached a turning point when Caxthul made an unexpected decision. Against all his training and beliefs, he opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy. This is Supreme Leader Caxthul to all ships and worlds participating in this performance. I have spent my life believing that chaos could only be prevented through absolute control. But what I hear now is not chaos. It is the most complex and beautiful order I have ever experienced. Captain Martinez felt her heart racing. Supreme Leader, does this mean you're willing to end the planned invasion of human space? More than that, Captain Martinez. I am willing to admit that my understanding of order and civilization has been fundamentally wrong. Your species has shown us that true strength comes not from forcing others to obey, but from inspiring them to contribute their unique gifts to something greater. The galaxy held its breath as Caxthul continued. I formally dissolved the Zephyrian Empire as it has existed for 1,000 years. In its place, I propose the creation of the Galactic Cultural Exchange, a voluntary association of worlds dedicated to sharing knowledge, art, and the pursuit of beauty. Cheers erupted across human space. On Zephyrian worlds, crowds gathered to celebrate their newfound freedom. The symphony grew even more powerful as entire planets added their voices to the performance. Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring the neural changes in populations across the galaxy. Captain, I'm detecting something remarkable. A shared musical experience is creating synchronized brain patterns across multiple species. Humans and Zephyrians are literally thinking in harmony. What does that mean for the future? Lisa asked. It means we're witnessing the birth of something new, a truly galactic civilization based on cooperation and shared creativity rather than conquest and domination. The symphony began to change as it approached its natural conclusion. Instead of ending, it evolved into something new, a continuous composition that would grow and change as more voices joined it. The music became a living thing, expressing the hopes and dreams of countless beings across the galaxy. Pilaras colony became the first to propose a new form of government based on artistic collaboration. Instead of administrative districts, they organized into creative groups that worked together on projects that benefited their entire world. The model spread rapidly to other Zephyrian worlds. Commander Veltar was appointed as the first director of interspecies harmony, working alongside Captain Martinez to establish protocols for cultural exchange between worlds. Their first official act was to create mobile concert halls, ships designed to travel between star systems, sharing music and art with anyone who wanted to experience it. Supreme Leader Caxthul, his title now meaningless, underwent surgery to restore the parts of his brain he had removed. The process was dangerous, but he insisted on taking the risk. When he recovered, he experienced music for the first time in decades. Captain Martinez, he said during their first meeting after his surgery, I cannot undo the harm I caused through centuries of conquest, but I can dedicate the rest of my life to building something better. What do you want to build? Lisa asked. I want to ensure that no leader ever again tries to suppress the creative spirit of their people. I want to create institutions that protect the right of every being to express themselves and contribute to the greater symphony of civilization. The galactic cultural exchange grew rapidly. Within months, dozens of species had joined the organization. Each brought their own forms of art and expression, creating an explosion of creativity that enriched every member world. Karolina Protsenko and Chen became the first Earth ambassadors of cultural exchange. They traveled to alien worlds, learning new forms of music and teaching human techniques to beings who had never heard Earth melodies. Their concerts became celebrations that lasted for days, bringing together species that had never imagined they could create beauty together. The transformation wasn't without challenges. Some Zephyrian worlds struggled to adapt to freedom after centuries of rigid control. Human colonies had to learn to share their cultural treasures with beings who thought very differently than they did. But the music continued, providing a common language that helped all species work through their differences. Years later, as Captain Martinez stood on the observation deck of the first Galactic Cultural Center, she watched children from a dozen different species learning to play music together. A young human girl sat next to a Zephyrian child, both struggling to master a new instrument that combined elements from both their cultures. "Amazing," Dr. Rodriguez said, joining her at the window. "Who would have thought that a street performance on Earth would lead to this?" Lisa smiled as she watched the children create their own small symphony. Maybe that's the real power of music. It reminds us that no matter how different we seem, we all share the desire to create something beautiful. And when we create together, we become more than we ever could alone. The universal language of music had done more than prevent a war. It had shown the galaxy a new way to live, not as conquerors or subjects, but as collaborators in the greatest symphony ever composed, the ongoing song of civilization itself.